She said, "Half this place is mine." So I gave her the half with no bathroom, no kitchen, and no Wi-Fi. Within a week, she was gone. Some roommates learned the hard way that pettiness is a two-way street. If you've ever been stuck with a freeloading, boundary-blind roommate, or just love seeing poetic justice in action, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life revenge stories where karma isn't just real, it's beautifully orchestrated. Let's get into it.
Hey there, I'm Maya Lynn, 28 years old, Brooklyn-based graphic designer by day, illustration nerd by night, and shameless latte addict all hours in between. I've lived in New York for almost 7 years now, and somehow, through a mix of dumb luck, obsessive apartment hunting, and a Craigslist miracle, I landed a rent-stabilized 2-bedroom in a brownstone walk-up in Prospect Heights. Hardwood floors, exposed brick, actual sunlight. It's the kind of place that makes your friends gasp when they first walk in. It's not huge, but it's home. Cozy enough to feel personal, big enough to not suffocate you, and most importantly, affordable. Well, by Brooklyn standards anyway. After my last roommate moved out to chase some tech job in Seattle, I had the rare luxury of peace and space, both of which are endangered species in this city. Now, a little about me. I'm what you might call a recovering people pleaser, type A with a twist of sarcasm. I like my Post-it notes color-coded, my inbox at 0, and my Spotify playlists alphabetized. I don't go out much anymore, but I love having people over for wine and board games. I'm not exactly chaotic good, more like structured neutral with a vendetta against bad Wi-Fi and passive-aggressive fridge notes. So, when Alyssa, my best friend from college, called me in tears after getting dumped by her long-term boyfriend, I didn't hesitate. I offered her the second bedroom. Split the rent, split the wine, maybe cry into a few pints of ice cream while watching terrible reality TV. I thought I was doing the right thing. I mean, we were best friends. We had lived together before, during senior year. Sure, that was back when our biggest concern was who forgot to buy paper towels, but still, I figured we knew each other well enough to make it work. What could go wrong? Spoiler alert, everything. Alyssa and I were the classic odd couple in college. I was the one who color-coded my planner and set 3 alarms to catch the morning seminar. She was the girl who woke up at noon, flung on a denim jacket over her pajamas, and somehow still managed to charm the TA into giving her an extension. I was the spreadsheet queen. She was all vibes and I'll manifest it. But somehow, it worked. We shared a tiny off-campus apartment during our senior year, more shoebox than living space, and we survived off ramen, boxed wine, and late-night study crams. She forgot things, I reminded her. She lost her keys weekly. I kept a spare taped behind the mailbox. It wasn't balanced exactly, but it was easy to write off her chaos as part of the college experience. Besides, we were best friends. Fast forward 6 years. We weren't broke students anymore. We were adults, paying bills, navigating careers, surviving this never-ending capitalist obstacle course called New York City. Only, Alyssa hadn't changed much. When she moved in, she came with 1 suitcase, 2 yoga mats, and 0 urgency. I noticed it right away. That sort of floaty, the universe will provide attitude had only intensified. In our first week as roommates, I made a shared calendar with chore rotations. She laughed and said, "You're still doing that?" I should have known. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. She had just gone through a breakup, she was uprooted, fragile, maybe even embarrassed. So when she left dishes in the sink for days, I just washed them. When she missed trash day, I dragged the bin out myself. I covered the extra toilet paper and let her borrow my Metro card when she forgot her wallet. Again. By month 2, patterns were forming. She never remembered to pay for her share of utilities unless I asked, twice. When I left polite reminders on the fridge, she'd draw flowers over them in marker. It was like she was allergic to responsibility but still wanted the perks of adulthood. Then came the fridge incident. I opened it one morning and was met with a pungent wall of death. Alyssa's leftover curry experiment had mutated into something unholy. I tossed the container without asking, because honestly, it was either that or call the CDC. She was offended, said I was disrespecting her creative process. You can't make this up. It wasn't just the mess, it was the casual entitlement. She would light incense in the living room without checking if I had a meeting. She once borrowed my favorite sweater, ruined it in the wash, and shrugged it off with a, "Well, you have a lot of clothes." I kept reminding myself, she's grieving, she's rebuilding, she just needs time. But time wasn't fixing anything. The one thing she did make time for? Instagramming her healing journey from my couch like it was a wellness retreat. I'd be at my desk busting deadlines for a brand campaign, while she sprawled next to me talking loudly on speakerphone to her intuitive therapist. She started burning sage, rearranging furniture, declaring that the apartment needed better energy flow. She even moved our couch one night and left it tilted for 2 days because she wasn't done aligning it with the moon cycle. I'm not joking. I wish I was. Still, I told myself, she'll pull it together, because that's what you tell yourself when someone you love starts making your life harder in slow, creeping ways. You keep minimizing it. You think patience will fix it. But patience doesn't pay rent. And by month 6, I realized I wasn't living with a friend in crisis. I was living with a full-grown toddler in a chakra headband. That's when everything changed. That's when she crossed a line so bold, so casually disrespectful, that even my people-pleasing instincts couldn't ignore it anymore. That's when she looked me in the eye and decided to claim half of my apartment. Not metaphorically, literally. And trust me, she was about to get exactly what she asked for. It started off small, like most disasters do. A little unpaid rent here, a delayed Venmo there. Alyssa had just gotten out of a breakup. Okay, I gave her grace. Month 1, I didn't say a word. Month 2, I brought it up gently, over pad thai and rosé. She nodded sympathetically and promised to manifest some freelance gigs. But by month 3, it was clear her financial healing process had turned into a full-blown freeloading operation. The only thing she manifested was a longer list of excuses. She stopped trying altogether. Not a dollar toward rent, not a coin toward utilities. I was paying for everything, from electricity to her non-dairy creamer, which wasn't even the cheap kind. And just when I thought she couldn't possibly push it further, the guests began arriving. Not friends stopping by, I'm talking full-on extended stay visitors. Overnight hangs that turned into weekend sleepovers. Then came the parade of strangers. Friends of friends, new Tinder flames, one guy who introduced himself as a freelance tattoo spiritualist. At some point, I realized I was sharing my home with a rotating cast of characters from her Instagram DMs. The real kicker? Darren, the so-called energy healer, he moved in for an entire week, wore nothing but linen pants and a sun hat indoors. He took over the bathroom mirror every morning to charge his aura. I came out one afternoon to find him meditating on my yoga mat, shirtless, surrounded by empty LaCroix cans. Meanwhile, I was working 10-hour days from home, hunched over deadlines while stepping over incense ash and dodging conversations about retrograde energy. I started feeling like the guest in my own apartment, a background character in her chaotic self-discovery arc. But I bit my tongue. I did what people like me do. We rationalize. It's temporary, I told myself. She just needs structure. And then, one day, I came home to a horror show. There, in the center of the living room, was a flimsy fold-out partition, the kind you get at Home Depot when you want to make a space feel separate. It stretched awkwardly from wall to wall, cutting the room in half like some bizarre reality TV challenge set. Alyssa stood behind it, beaming like she'd just solved world peace. "Oh, hey," she said, casually. "I'm Airbnb-ing my room to help with rent. I'll just stay out here behind the divider, so I still have privacy." I blinked. That was the moment something snapped. I wasn't even mad yet. I was stunned. The sheer audacity of it all. I had paid every single bill for months, bent over backwards to accommodate her, and now she was monetizing her bedroom like it was a weekend lake house? I reminded her, calmly, that I was the only name on the lease, that this was my legal residence. She tilted her head and said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world, "Technically, I live here too, so half of it is mine." Half. She said it with no irony, no hesitation, just pure, unfiltered entitlement. It was almost funny. Almost. What wasn't funny? That she truly believed it. That somewhere in her chaotic logic, she thought her $0 contribution equated to equal ownership. But this wasn't just about rent anymore. It wasn't even about Darren or the incense or the spiritual download she kept referring to at dinner. This was about respect, or the lack thereof. I had let things slide for too long, hoping she'd realize how far she'd strayed from basic decency. But people don't change because you hope they will. That moment, standing in the doorway, watching her adjust her curtain divider like she was curating a boutique hostel, was the turning point. It wasn't rage that followed. It wasn't even sadness. It was clarity. If she wanted half, I would give her half. Exactly, painfully, legally half. And not a square inch more. That night, I didn't stew or argue. I opened my laptop and started sketching floor plans. Because if there's one thing I've learned as a graphic designer, it's this. Boundaries aren't just visual. Sometimes you draw them in ink, sometimes in tape, and sometimes in Wi-Fi range. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, not seething with rage, but calculating. While Alyssa likely drifted to sleep under a halo of sage smoke and moonwater affirmations, I was orchestrating her logistical demise. You see, I'm a designer. My brain doesn't just look at spaces, it restructures them. I live for clean lines, functional flow, and perfect proportion. And if she wanted half, I was going to deliver it with brutal precision. By morning, I already had tabs open. Tenant rights, city zoning laws, micro apartment layouts. I wasn't looking to fight, I was looking to legally win. First call, my landlord, Mr. DeSantis. He's old school Brooklyn, button-down shirts, always smells like pipe tobacco, lives for things being neat and proper. We've always gotten along because I pay rent early and never complain. I laid it all out. My roommate wants half, and I'd like to reconfigure the unit. No construction, just redrawn use of space. He was intrigued. Technically, the square footage could support a creative split, and since I agreed to a slightly higher rent, he had no objections. He even chuckled and said, "Smart girl, give her the half without plumbing." Next call was to my friend Jonah, a junior architect who owed me for a branding job I did for his portfolio website. I sent him a sketch. He sent back a legal draft within hours. The plan was comical in its precision. My side, bathroom, kitchen, hallway, and the all-important Wi-Fi router. Her side, the living room, partition included, a closet, a window, and a single outlet extension. It was all within legal gray zones. No load-bearing changes, no fire code violations, just a clean redistribution of access. My unit was 60%, hers was 40%. Jonah labeled them Micro Unit A and B, and we filed it under an internal use-only agreement with the landlord. All perfectly above board. To complete the illusion, I updated the Wi-Fi password and placed the router on a tall shelf in my room. Then I added a smart lock to the bathroom door. Kitchen cabinets locked. I even got a mini fridge for her side, left a roll of paper towels, and taped a laminated copy of the new floor plan to the living room divider. It was part malicious compliance, part art installation. When Alyssa came home that evening, the look on her face was priceless. She blinked at the posted diagram like it was written in ancient Greek. What is this? I handed her a printed packet. You said you wanted half. Well, here's your half. We've updated the internal unit map with the landlord. It's official. She flipped through the pages, eyes widening as the implications sank in. Wait, this says I don't have access to the bathroom or the kitchen? I stayed calm, steady. You technically live here, but I'm the leaseholder. This is the legal arrangement now. She sputtered, cried, tried to guilt trip me with the greatest hits. I thought we were friends. You know I'm healing. This is abusive behavior. And my personal favorite, you've turned into everything you said you'd never be. But I didn't flinch, because what she really meant was, you stopped letting me walk all over you. Later that night, she posted a long, weepy status on Facebook, something about being emotionally displaced and capitalist betrayal disguised as friendship. She threw in a few buzzwords for good measure: toxic, gaslighting, weaponized boundaries. It got 2 likes. One from Darren, the other from her cousin who once borrowed my coat and never gave it back. Me? I posted one photo, a screenshot of the lease agreement with the updated layout, captioned simply, "Boundaries. Know them, draw them, enforce them." I wasn't trying to be petty. Okay, maybe a little, but more than anything, I wanted the record set straight. For months, I'd carried the weight of her irresponsibility, her drama, her excuses. And now, in a single act of architectural precision, I'd finally put that burden down. The best part? It worked. The next morning, she barely said a word, just sulked behind the partition and cursed under her breath when her phone couldn't connect to Wi-Fi. Within 48 hours, she was already texting friends looking for a place to crash. By day 4, she started packing, said she couldn't live like this, that the energy was poisoned. I nodded solemnly, like I was mourning a spiritual loss instead of secretly rejoicing. On day 6, she was gone, left behind a sage bundle and a chipped mug that said, "Good vibes only." But the vibes? Oh, they were immaculate now. She never paid me back, never apologized, just vanished in a cloud of incense and delusion. But I didn't care, because I had my apartment back. I had my peace. And for the first time in months, I had a living room without an Airbnb listing taped to the wall. She was out in less than a week. No dramatic exit, no apology, just a single cardboard box, a duffel bag, and an eye roll so hard I thought it might detach her optic nerve. She muttered something vague about needing a fresh start and bad energy buildup, then slammed the door behind her like a punctuation mark. I waited a full minute before exhaling. You know that feeling when something heavy lifts off your chest and you realize just how much tension you'd been holding? That was me, standing in the middle of my own apartment, finally alone, finally free. For the first time in months, there was no incense burning, no healer crashing on my futon, no passive-aggressive sticky notes about open vibes. I didn't waste a second. I turned on Lizzo, full blast. Good as hell echoed through the walls like a cleansing anthem. I grabbed every throw pillow, blanket, yoga mat, and crystal off the couch and piled them into a trash bag. Then I vacuumed, I mopped, I scrubbed the baseboards with vengeance-fueled elbow grease. It was less cleaning and more exorcism. It wasn't just about removing her scent or her clutter. It was about reclaiming space, reclaiming sanity, reclaiming the version of myself that didn't tiptoe around someone else's delusion. That same weekend, I walked past a rescue center and saw a scruffy, wide-eyed little mutt staring up at me like she'd been waiting her whole life to be chosen. She was tan, lopsided, and had a floppy ear that never stood quite straight. Her tag read Mabel, but I knew immediately. This was Haffy. Haffy, my petty little tribute to poetic justice. Haffy, the dog who now occupied the very corner of the living room Alyssa had once partitioned off like she was starting a hostile Airbnb takeover. Haffy never asked for more than her share. She didn't freeload, didn't host strangers, and, miraculously, never burned sage once. She brought peace without trying. She showed affection without expectations. She didn't think her presence alone justified access to everything I'd built. Every night, she curled up at the foot of my bed. Every morning, she greeted me like I was Beyoncé and Oprah rolled into one. I joked that she had better roommate etiquette than most humans I'd met. And honestly, it wasn't far from the truth. Over the next few weeks, the energy in my space shifted entirely. It felt bigger, warmer, like it finally belonged to me again. I lit candles, not the cheap spiritual kind, but the expensive vanilla birch ones that actually smell good. I rearranged the furniture, threw out the broken diffuser, and treated myself to a new coffee table that wasn't covered in paint stains and incense ash. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel drained in my own home. I could sit in silence and actually feel calm instead of alert. There were no arguments to anticipate, no boundaries to defend. Just me, Haffy, and the rhythmic hum of a well-earned peace. It wasn't just the space that felt new, it was me. I stopped apologizing for expecting respect. I stopped second-guessing my standards. I stopped equating kindness with being a doormat. That's the thing about manipulative people. They gaslight you into thinking that drawing boundaries makes you the problem, that asking for basic decency is somehow too much. But the second they're held accountable, they crumble like overbaked muffins. Alyssa tried to flip the script on me, tried to frame herself as the victim of my capitalist cruelty because I asked her to contribute, tried to claim half of what she didn't help build. And in the end, she walked away with exactly that, half. The half with no plumbing, no kitchen, no comfort. Me, I kept everything else. The lease, the privacy, the peace. And a dog who never once asked for rent, but gave me back something even more valuable, quiet loyalty. Now, every time I sip coffee in the sunlit living room, I think about how close I came to losing it all, to being edged out of my own space by someone who thought love meant never holding her accountable. But not anymore. The apartment's mine. The peace is mine. The story? Also mine. And Haffy? She sleeps like she owns the place. And between you and me, I think she kind of does. Some people think friendship means unconditional access, like being close to you gives them a lifetime pass to overstep. But real friendship has limits. It thrives with mutual respect, shared effort, and yes, clear, unapologetic boundaries. Drawing that line doesn't make you heartless. It makes you aware. It took me months of second-guessing, covering rent, and trying to be understanding to realize I wasn't being kind, I was being used. And that's the trap, isn't it? We confuse being accommodating with being good. But good people don't let themselves get walked over forever. Eventually, they stand up. Alyssa wanted half, and in the end, she got the exact version of it she deserved. And me? I didn't just reclaim my apartment. I reclaimed my voice, my peace, my space. You don't have to light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, especially when they won't even strike the match to help. So, no, I don't feel guilty. I feel calm, I feel whole, I feel free. And Haffy? Well, she agrees.
If you've ever had to outsmart a toxic roommate, or just appreciate the art of creative revenge, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories just like this. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done if someone claimed half your apartment? Until next time, keep your boundaries sharp and your Wi-Fi password sharper.